Australia's watch market is dominated by the same tired narrative. Swiss precision costs thousands, Japanese reliability sits somewhere in the middle, and everything else is disposable. But that's exactly what the major retailers want you to believe. Walk into any Kmart, Big W, or Target across Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, or Perth, and you'll see the same brands in the same positions, marked up with the same margins, sold with the same marketing spin. The duopoly doesn't control watches the way Woolworths and Coles control groceries, but the principle is identical. Limit your options, control the narrative, and make you feel like you're getting a bargain when you're actually just accepting mediocrity. This video isn't about which brand looks fancier on your wrist. It's about which brand respects your wallet, respects your time, and actually delivers on what the packaging promises. Because in a market where most people buy based on what they see in a shopping center window, or what their mate recommended 5 years ago, the real gold mines are the ones everyone walks past. Let's get specific about each one because saying something is good is easy. Showing the numbers is another story. And in a market flooded with marketing, the truth about what's actually inside that box is harder to find than you think. Number 6 on this list is Loris and Pulsar. And this is where the conversation about affordable watches in Australia starts to get interesting. Most Australians have never heard of these brands, which is precisely the point. Loris and Pulsar aren't independent companies fighting for shelf space against the giants. They're owned by Seiko, one of Japan's most respected watchmaking groups, established in 1881 and operating in Australia for over 40 years. Seiko created Loris in 1972 as a value-focused subsidiary, and Pulsar followed as another accessible entry point into reliable timekeeping. What makes this relevant to Australian consumers is availability and price positioning. You'll find Loris and Pulsar watches in Shiels Jewellers, Watch Depot, and various independent retailers across Australia, with prices typically ranging from 120 Australian dollars to 250 Australian dollars. The engineering inside these watches is where the real story lives. Both brands use Seiko's proven quartz movements, the same calibers that power watches costing 3 times the price. A Loris quartz watch, for example, uses a standard Japanese quartz oscillator accurate to within 15 seconds per month, meets ISO 6425 standards for water resistance if it's rated as a dive watch, and features hardened mineral crystal glass that resists scratching better than acrylic but costs less than sapphire. The case construction typically uses stainless steel or brass with various plating options, and the movements are sealed in a way that protects against dust and moisture without the premium price tag of a Seiko or Citizen equivalent. Here's where the marketing versus reality gap becomes visible. Loris and Pulsar don't advertise themselves as luxury or heritage brands. They market themselves as reliable, affordable, and practical. And that's exactly what you get. There's no pretense, no inflated brand story, no claim that owning one will change your life. The Australian Consumer Association's Choice magazine has tested affordable watches in the past, and the consistent finding is that quartz watches from established manufacturers like Seiko's subsidiaries outperform boutique or fashion brands at the same price point in terms of accuracy and durability. A Loris watch will keep better time than a fashion brand watch costing the same amount, and it will likely outlast it by years. Pricing in Australian dollars tells the real story. A Loris automatic watch costs around 180 Australian dollars at Watch Depot, which breaks down to roughly 18 Australian dollars per year if the watch lasts 10 years, or 9 Australian dollars per year if it lasts 20. Compare that to a fashion brand watch at the same price that might last 3 years, and suddenly the value proposition becomes mathematical rather than emotional. The reason Loris and Pulsar sit at number 6 isn't because they're the cheapest or the fanciest. It's because they're the most honest. They promise reliability and deliver it. They don't promise status and then charge you for the marketing. In a market where most affordable watches are either disposable fashion pieces or entry-level attempts at looking like something they're not, Loris and Pulsar occupy a rare space. Genuinely useful tools that cost less than a decent pair of shoes. Number 5 is Timex, and this one requires a direct conversation about American pragmatism meeting Australian practicality. Timex was founded in 1854 in Connecticut, and the brand has been operating in Australia since the 1970s through various distributors, most recently through Designa Accessories based in Terran Point, New South Wales. The brand's Australian presence is significant, but often overlooked, because Timex doesn't compete on heritage storytelling the way Swiss brands do. Instead, Timex competes on a single principle: make a watch that works, make it affordable, and make it available everywhere. You'll find Timex watches in Big W, Target, Kmart, and independent retailers across every Australian state, with prices ranging from 179 Australian dollars to 349 Australian dollars depending on the model. The engineering philosophy behind Timex is distinctly different from Japanese manufacturers. Where Seiko and Citizen obsess over precision and longevity, Timex obsesses over simplicity and repairability. A Timex watch typically uses a basic quartz movement, often a Miyota or Ronda caliber licensed to Timex specifications, paired with a straightforward mechanical design that can be serviced by any competent watchmaker in Australia. The cases are usually brass or stainless steel, the crystals are mineral glass, and the straps are either leather or fabric, materials chosen for durability and replaceability rather than prestige. What separates Timex from the fashion watch category is the consistency of the movement. A Timex Weekender, for example, one of the brand's most popular models in Australia, uses a Miyota OS20 quartz movement accurate to within 20 seconds per month, features a simple 3-hand display with no complications, and is water-resistant to 30 meters. That specification might sound basic, but it means the watch will survive daily wear, occasional splashes, and years of use without requiring expensive servicing. The proof of this philosophy comes from independent testing and consumer feedback. The Australian Consumer Association's Choice magazine has historically rated Timex watches as reliable performers in the affordable category, noting that the brand's watches consistently maintain accuracy and function after years of use. What's particularly relevant to Australian consumers is Timex's approach to strap replacement. Because Timex uses standard strap widths and simple attachment mechanisms, replacing a worn strap costs between 15 and 30 Australian dollars at any watch repair shop, rather than the 100 to 200 Australian dollars you might pay for a fashion brand watch that uses proprietary strap systems. Pricing in Australian dollars reveals the value structure. A Timex Weekender costs around 199 Australian dollars at Big W or Target, which is approximately 20 Australian dollars per year if the watch lasts 10 years. A Timex Expedition, the brand's outdoor-focused line, costs between 249 and 329 Australian dollars, still well below the price of a comparable Seiko or Citizen. The reason Timex sits at number 5 is because it represents honest American manufacturing philosophy applied to affordable watches. It doesn't promise to make you look wealthy. It promises to tell you the time accurately, and it delivers on that promise without the marketing overhead that other brands add to justify their pricing. Number 4 is Citizen EcoDrive, and this is where the conversation shifts from simple affordability to genuine innovation at an accessible price point. Citizen was founded in 1918 in Tokyo and has been operating in Australia since the 1980s, with significant distribution through major retailers like Myer, Shiels Jewellers, and Watch Direct. The brand's Australian market presence is substantial, with watches available in every state and price points ranging from 289 Australian dollars to over 1,000 Australian dollars depending on the model and collection. The technology that makes Citizen distinct is EcoDrive, a proprietary solar charging system that converts any light source, natural or artificial, into electrical energy to power the watch. This isn't marketing hyperbole. It's a legitimate engineering solution to a genuine problem: battery replacement. A traditional quartz watch requires a battery change every 2 to 3 years, which costs between 20 and 50 Australian dollars each time, plus the inconvenience of taking the watch to a service center. A Citizen EcoDrive watch, once charged, will run indefinitely as long as it receives regular light exposure. The movement inside a Citizen EcoDrive watch is typically a Japanese quartz caliber paired with a solar cell integrated into the dial, a rechargeable lithium battery, and a circuit board designed to manage power consumption. The accuracy is within 15 seconds per month. Water resistance varies by model, but typically ranges from 50 to 100 meters, and the overall construction uses stainless steel cases, sapphire crystal glass, and either leather or metal bracelets. What makes this relevant to Australian consumers is the long-term cost calculation. A Citizen EcoDrive watch costs around 329 Australian dollars at Watch Direct or Myer for an entry-level model. Over a 10-year ownership period, assuming no battery replacements because the watch charges from light, the cost per year is approximately 33 Australian dollars. Compare that to a traditional quartz watch that costs 249 Australian dollars, but requires battery replacements every 2 to 3 years at 30 Australian dollars each, and the EcoDrive becomes the more economical choice after 5 years of ownership. The proof of this technology comes from Citizen's own data and independent testing. The brand publishes specifications for power reserve, which for most EcoDrive watches is approximately 6 months of darkness before the watch stops. This means if you wear the watch regularly and expose it to normal indoor and outdoor light, the watch will never require a battery change. The Australian Consumer Association has noted in past testing that solar-powered watches from established manufacturers like Citizen represent genuine innovation in the affordable category, offering features that were previously only available in premium watches. Pricing in Australian dollars shows the value proposition clearly. An entry-level Citizen EcoDrive costs around 329 Australian dollars at Myer or Watch Direct. A mid-range model with additional complications like a date window or chronograph costs between 449 and 629 Australian dollars. Even at the higher end of this range, you're still below the price of an equivalent Seiko or Bulova with traditional quartz movement and battery replacement requirements. The reason Citizen EcoDrive sits at number 4 is because it represents the intersection of genuine innovation and accessible pricing. The technology actually works. It actually saves money over time, and it actually addresses a real problem that watch owners face. In a market where most affordable watches are either simple quartz movements or fashion pieces with no functional advantage, EcoDrive technology is a legitimate differentiator. Number 3 is Bulova, and this is where the conversation becomes about American watchmaking heritage meeting Japanese manufacturing efficiency. Bulova was founded in 1912 by Joseph Bulova in New York, and has been operating in Australia since the 1960s through various distributors, currently available through retailers like Starbuy Australia, Watch Direct, and Wallace Bishop. The brand's Australian presence is established but understated, with watches available across major cities and price points ranging from 349 Australian dollars to over 1,000 Australian dollars depending on the collection. The engineering philosophy behind Bulova is distinct from both Japanese and Swiss manufacturers. Bulova pioneered quartz technology in the 1970s and has maintained a focus on precision quartz movements combined with distinctive design. The brand's most notable innovation is the Precisionist line, which uses a high-frequency quartz movement oscillating at 32,000 times per second, compared to the standard 32,000 times per second of most quartz watches. This results in a smooth, sweeping second hand rather than the typical tick-tick-tick motion of standard quartz watches, creating a visual experience more similar to mechanical watches. The movement inside a Bulova Precisionist watch uses a proprietary quartz caliber, a high-frequency oscillator, and a circuit board designed to handle the increased power demands of the faster oscillation rate. Accuracy is within 10 seconds per month. Water resistance typically ranges from 50 to 100 meters depending on the model, and the case construction uses stainless steel, sometimes with gold plating, sapphire crystal glass, and either leather or metal bracelets. What makes this relevant to Australian consumers is the intersection of visual appeal and technical specification. A Bulova Precisionist watch costs around 499 Australian dollars at Watch Direct or Starbuy Australia for an entry-level model. The visual experience of watching the second-hand sweep continuously, rather than tick, is a genuine quality-of-life improvement that costs less than a comparable Seiko or Citizen, with equivalent water resistance and accuracy specifications. The proof of this technology comes from independent testing and consumer feedback. The Australian Consumer Association has noted that Bulova's Precisionist line offers a distinctive visual experience that appeals to consumers who want a watch that feels more mechanical without the maintenance requirements of an actual mechanical movement. The sweeping second hand is not a gimmick. It's a functional consequence of the higher oscillation rate, and it creates a perception of quality that justifies the price premium over standard quartz watches. Pricing in Australian dollars reveals the value structure. A Bulova Precisionist costs around 499 to 549 Australian dollars at Watch Direct or Starbuy. A standard Bulova quartz watch costs between 349 and 449 Australian dollars. Even at the higher end of the Precisionist range, you're still below the price of a comparable Seiko or Citizen, and you're getting a distinctive visual experience that sets the watch apart from the crowd. The reason Bulova sits at number 3 is because it represents American engineering innovation applied to affordable watches. The Precisionist technology is genuine, it's distinctive, and it offers a tangible improvement over standard quartz watches without requiring the premium pricing of Swiss or high-end Japanese brands. Number 2 is Seiko. And this is where the conversation becomes about the brand that defined affordable quality in the watch industry and has maintained that position for over 60 years. Seiko was founded in 1918 in Tokyo and has been operating in Australia since the 1970s, with significant distribution through major retailers like Myer, Shiels Jewellers, Watch Direct, and Watch Depot. The brand's Australian presence is substantial, with watches available in every state and price points ranging from $249 Australian dollars to over 5,000 Australian dollars depending on the collection. The engineering philosophy behind Seiko is obsessive attention to detail applied at every price point. The brand doesn't create a cheap line and a premium line with different quality standards. Instead, Seiko applies the same manufacturing principles, quality control standards, and design philosophy across all price ranges. A Seiko watch at $250 Australian dollars uses the same case finishing techniques, the same movement assembly standards, and the same quality control testing as a Seiko watch at $500 Australian dollars. The difference is in the complications, the materials, and the finishing details, not in the fundamental reliability or accuracy. The movement inside a Seiko quartz watch typically uses a Japanese quartz caliber, often a Seiko 7N35 or equivalent, accurate to within 15 seconds per month, paired with a case constructed from stainless steel or brass with various finishing options, a mineral or sapphire crystal depending on the model, and either leather or metal bracelets. Water resistance varies by model, but typically ranges from 50 to 200 meters for affordable Seiko watches. The Seiko 5 Sports line, one of the brand's most popular affordable collections in Australia, uses automatic mechanical movements, typically the Seiko 4R36 or equivalent, accurate to within 20 seconds per day, with water resistance to 100 meters and a date window. What makes Seiko distinct in the affordable watch market is the consistency of quality across the entire range. A Seiko watch at $289 Australian dollars will perform as reliably as a Seiko watch at $899 Australian dollars. The difference is in the aesthetic details and the complications, not in the fundamental engineering. The proof of this philosophy comes from independent testing and consumer feedback. The Australian Consumer Association's Choice magazine has historically rated Seiko watches as the benchmark for affordable quality, noting that the brand's watches consistently outperform competitors at the same price point in terms of accuracy, durability, and reliability. Seiko watches are known in the watch enthusiast community as the brand that offers the best value for money in the affordable category, a reputation earned through decades of consistent quality and innovation. Pricing in Australian dollars reveals the value structure. A Seiko 5 sports automatic watch costs around $289 to $349 Australian dollars at Myer or Watch Direct. A Seiko quartz watch costs between $249 and $449 Australian dollars depending on the collection. Even the most affordable Seiko watches are built to last decades with proper care, making the cost per year of ownership among the lowest in the industry. A Seiko watch purchased at $300 Australian dollars that lasts 20 years costs $15 Australian dollars per year, a value proposition that's difficult to match in the affordable watch market. The reason Seiko sits at number 2 is because it represents the gold standard for affordable quality. The brand has earned its reputation through consistent excellence, not through marketing or brand positioning. In a market where most affordable watches are either disposable fashion pieces or entry-level attempts at looking like something they're not, Seiko occupies a rare space. Genuinely excellent watches that cost less than most people spend on shoes. Number 1 is Casio G-Shock, and this is where the conversation becomes about a watch that has transcended its original purpose and become a cultural icon that happens to be affordable. Casio was founded in 1957 in Tokyo and has been operating in Australia since the 1980s, with significant distribution through major retailers like Kmart, Big W, Target, Shiels Jewellers, Watch Direct, and G Life Watches, which has been an official Casio retailer in Australia for over 30 years. The brand's Australian presence is ubiquitous, with G-Shock watches available in every state and price points ranging from $169 Australian dollars to over 1,000 Australian dollars depending on the model and collection. The engineering philosophy behind G-Shock is fundamentally different from every other brand on this list. In 1983, Casio engineer Kikuo Ibe set out to create a watch that could survive being dropped from a building. The result was the G-Shock, a watch designed with a shock-resistant case, a protective bumper around the crystal, and internal damping systems that absorb impact energy. This wasn't a marketing gimmick. It was a genuine engineering solution to a genuine problem. Watches are fragile, and most people drop them at some point. The movement inside a G-Shock watch is typically a Casio quartz caliber, accurate to within 15 seconds per month, paired with a resin case designed to absorb shock, a mineral crystal protected by a plastic bezel, and a resin or rubber strap. Water resistance typically ranges from 50 to 200 meters depending on the model. The real innovation is in the case construction. The movement is suspended inside the case on a series of shock-absorbing springs, which means if you drop the watch, the impact is absorbed by the springs rather than transmitted directly to the movement. This engineering principle has been proven in countless real-world scenarios. G-Shock watches have survived being dropped from buildings, run over by cars, and subjected to conditions that would destroy any other affordable watch. What makes G-Shock distinct in the affordable watch market is that the engineering actually addresses a real problem that watch owners face: durability. Most people don't drop their watches intentionally, but most people do drop them at some point. A G-Shock is designed to survive that drop and continue working perfectly. The proof of this philosophy comes from independent testing and consumer feedback. The Australian Consumer Association's Choice magazine has tested G-Shock watches and noted that the brand's watches consistently outperform competitors in durability testing, surviving impacts and environmental stresses that would damage or destroy other watches. Military and law enforcement agencies around the world issue G-Shock watches to personnel because the watches are proven to survive the conditions these professionals face. The Australian Defence Force has used G-Shock watches in field operations, and the brand's reputation for durability is earned through real-world performance, not marketing claims. Pricing in Australian dollars reveals the value proposition. A basic G-Shock digital watch costs around 169 to 199 Australian dollars at Kmart, Big W, or Target. A G-Shock with additional features like world timer or dual time costs between 199 and 249 Australian dollars. A G-Shock with analog and digital display costs around 219 to 269 Australian dollars. Even the most feature-rich G-Shock watches cost less than 349 Australian dollars, which is the price of a basic Seiko or Citizen. The reason G-Shock sits at number 1 is because it represents the intersection of genuine innovation, proven durability, and accessible pricing. The watch was designed to solve a real problem, and it solves that problem better than any other watch in the affordable category. In a market where most watches are either disposable fashion pieces or attempts to look more expensive than they are, G-Shock is a watch that's designed to be used, not displayed. It's a tool that happens to be affordable, and that's exactly why it's the gold mine that everyone ignores. Here's what connects all 6 of these brands. They're all honest. They don't promise status or heritage or Swiss precision when what they deliver is reliable timekeeping at an accessible price. They don't use marketing to hide the fact that they're affordable. They use engineering to justify the price. In a market where the duopoly of major retailers controls the narrative about what watches are worth buying, these brands represent an alternative. Watches that are chosen based on what they actually do, not on what the marketing says they should do. When Australians vote with their wallet and choose a watch based on engineering rather than brand positioning, the market listens. The brands that survive and thrive are the ones that deliver on their promises, and these 6 brands have done exactly that for decades. If this video gave you a fresh perspective on what's actually on your wrist or what's actually worth buying the next time you're in Kmart or Big W, subscribe because we do this every week, cutting through the marketing to find what's real. Comment which one of these brands you already trusted and which one surprised you. I already know which one will start the biggest debate in the comments. Which of these watches do you actually find in your local Kmart or Meijer? And did this video change your mind about what affordable really means?